Hello, boys and girls. I hope that all is well. Let's pull these levels around here. Hope everything sounds good. Let's make sure that all is the way that it should be. We're here. We're back. Took a little break for a couple weeks. Things have been crazy for everybody. But here we are. Let's get right into it, shall we? Pull up some stuff on the side here. Oh, this is fun. Spanish porn star held after man dies in toad venom ritual. In Madrid, a porn star has been arrested on manslaughter charges following a man's death during a mystic ritual in which he inhaled psychedelic toad venom. Wild. Hang on. That's gotta go into the stream title. There it goes. Rhett and Link raised $100,000 for what? All the charities that are going around? Okay. For Black Lives Matter. For the cause at hand. Mythical Beast raised $46,000. Okay, cool. Then Rhett and Link are gonna personally. It's Ryu. I'm alive, my friend. Hello, good to see you. I know I've been doing my thing, my dude. I've been gardening. I've been homekeeping. I've been tending to my family and my own mental well-being. Yeah, I know. Sorry, I hope I didn't want to make anyone nervous. I'm sorry to have been. Oh yeah. Babe, oh yeah, I should have gotten her equipped. Oh, where are the Nerf guns? Where's your Nerf gun? Here, hang on. I'm gonna put the dog to lay down with the child. Hang on a minute. I'll be right back. Oh shit, it's Tommy Boy. What up, dog? Good to see you. Here we go. Ryu, you've been waiting a long time for this. You and many others. My regrets. Sometimes a man has to do what he must. So, oh, nice shot, right in the shoulder. Took my arm off. Alright, that's enough. Save it. Oh, just got off your second job. Nice, dude. Making that paper. I'm on my second job now. We're gonna fly some spaceships. We're gonna talk about some funny stuff. Dude, get this. This is a good one to start you off with. In Spain, a porn star has been arrested on manslaughter charges following a man's death during a mystic ritual in which he inhaled psychedelic toad venom, Spanish police said Wednesday. Nacho Vidal was detained last week in the southeastern Valencia region in connection with the death of the man in July 2019. Media identified the victim as fashion photographer Jose Luis Abad. The police operation began following the victim's death during the celebration of a mystic ritual based on the inhalation of venom of the Bufo alvarius toad, a police statement said. The toad, a rare species which is native to the Sonoran Desert, stretching from northern Mexico into California and Arizona, secretes venom containing a very powerful natural psychedelic substance known as DMT, 5-MeO-DMT. Is that a different kind of strain? I didn't know you could get DMT from a toad. I know ayahuasca, I know it's synthesized, it can be synthesized chemically, but I didn't know that toads secrete it. Yeah, it's 5-methyloxy-N-dimethyltryptamine. I don't know if that's the DMT that I did. We can talk about psychedelics another time. That's a tangent. Its effects have been compared to ayahuasca. Yes, we know it's DMT. So yeah, sick. Dude, I love the idea of occult porn stars performing DMT rituals on one another. It's kind of metal. I'm into it. Oh, only boring missions. Let's go see if the Henry is still hanging around. It may be. What up, chat? If there's any newcomers, I'm Dell. I've been a little absent lately. Big ups. I want to thank a couple of people who followed me in the time when I wasn't active, and I want to thank Chris 1Q88 and Street Owner. These dudes followed me while I was being a bum, an awful bum. Uh-oh. Almost. No biggie. Alright, let's get going. So, what have you been up to, Ryu? Yeah, the homeboy and tomboy. How have things been going? Have you guys, Ryu, have you had any civil unrest in your area? Or have things been relatively calm? Because they're protesting in my town. Yes? Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about that tonight, if we get into the discussion. Because despite the fact that it's probably in my best interest to, not get super political, there's time to speak out and there's time to do things. My interest mainly isn't just in educating, trying to spread awareness to the kinds of stories that are going out there. Eugene had 3 stores and a car burned. They put a curfew in, for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, we have a curfew here. People disobey it. They're just citing people and releasing them. Because that's what happens with the popular uprising and the people's, when people decide to rally in large numbers to have their voice heard, the very real and undeniable question is, are you going to arrest all of us? Are you going to shoot all of us? Does your monopoly on violence and state authority extend that far? That's the question that the people are asking the authority. I'd rather do DMT in a crazy Spanish porn ritual. Oh wait, why did I just turn around and go back to Stevenson? Autopilot, dude. Autopilot took over. I started talking about riots and stuff, and I was just like, fly to Stevenson. That's hilarious. Okay, here's a good one. The Boston Herald brings us this story, published June 2nd. A Massachusetts man is facing an assault charge after he allegedly threw a large pickle from a moving vehicle that hit a Vermont highway worker, police said. The incident occurred just before 6 p.m. Monday on U.S. Route 7 in Pownal, near the border crossing into Massachusetts. The Henry is still there. Let's go see if we can stir up some trouble. A passenger in a southbound vehicle threw an object, quote, later determined to be a large pickle, end quote, that hit the highway worker and caused him pain, police said. They couldn't say that injured him, it just caused him pain. It's like getting slapped with a wet hand at 60 miles an hour. Agency of Transportation officials provided a description of the vehicle to police, which led officers to the suspect with the help of Williamstown, Massachusetts Police Department. Christoph Harmansdorfer, 34, of Williamstown, was cited to appear in court in Bennington next month to answer a charge of simple assault. So the pickle thrower will be brought to justice. Hey, if we defund the police, how will we find the pickle throwers? That's serious work that you need a GED and at least 8 weeks of training to figure out how to do. Okay, this is a story that I can't tell if it's satire or not. So, people with a sneeze fetish have divided feelings about the pandemic, says this headline. I know you don't have a sneeze fetish. Sneeze fetish, believe it or not, it's a real thing. I'm not sure how far I want to get into this article. I'm sure it's just one of those lovely... So many articles is just like these fluff pieces. What can we fill a page with to get people to visit it so we can run these awesome ads? This seems like one of them. Anyway, according to Dr. Ruth Westheimer, that's a crazy name. Wstheimer. There are no vowels in the first 4 letters of the name. That you got to get 5 letters deep into this doctor's name to get to a vowel. Westheimer. An orgasm is just a reflex, like a sneeze. That's not to say they're connected, they just follow similar patterns. I've always said that. There's this tension, there's a build-up, you can feel it coming, and then there's this climactic release. A sneeze is very much like a tiny little orgasm. I will stand by that. For sure. Anyway, they're just saying if you have a sneeze fetish, be careful because there's a pandemic. Pretty basic stuff there. Alright, I saw some reports earlier today that the Henry Hauler here was not spawning any pirates. So we'll sit here for a few minutes and see if something turns up. It never takes more than 5 or 10 minutes in my experience for something to spawn if it's coming. So yeah, I'm sure everybody by now has seen and heard the big announcement from Frontier. regarding our new expansion coming in the early days of 2021, early weeks of 2021, probably early months of 2021. All right, maybe second quarter 2021, we'll see. Oh, somebody just came in. That's kind of huge and exciting. I have watched The Expanse. The wife has not. But now that I have my own Amazon Prime account, we can watch stuff together. Because before I was borrowing a friend's. Psst. But now, I'm down to rewatch all of The Expanse. She'd like it. She'd like it. Right now, no, I don't want to watch Space Force. I don't know. I'll check it out. I've seen some. I miss the Orville too. You were inspired. Yeah, dude, The Expanse is an inspiring and beautiful show. I really want to read the book series, but I really can't wait for more of it. Um, I mean, such nuanced and interesting characters. I just fell in love with all of these characters and their conflicts. The mystery's great. I don't want to discuss it because there's just it's a spoiler field, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone else. But yeah, I loved The Expanse. I will say it's one of the things I really appreciate about it is that it's the only popular sci-fi that I've seen that pays any amount of respect to Newtonian physics. In most science fiction, it's soft sci-fi, or it's to the point where your technology is magic. You just hand wavy. There's artificial gravity. Don't worry about it. But what makes living and experiencing a world where Newtonian physics are respected is that you can see it's evident in the way that the ships are built. It's evident in the way that the people move and talk and eat. Space magic. The experience of watching The Expanse is feeling like you're actually living in a world where physics matters. You've got the verticality of their ships, where it's your home, but it's a stack. You know what I feel like happened though? Let's talk about this because it's a spoiler, but it's a really inconsequential one. Yeah, I'd love to see a Rossi. Because the FGS is a good Rossi. Let's see this. What was I saying? Okay, let's see what you got here. Reactive surface composite. Good. Max out those cores. HRPs all the way. And nothing but multi-cannons and pack hounds. Sweet. Heat sinks, chaff, point defense, and ECM. Yeah, I love it. Kind of an all-arounder. Dude, I love the way that Martian culture changes throughout the arc of the seasons that we just get to witness. And again, spoiler free, but the what Mars goes through and the way that it alters the perspective on nationalism and duty that our Martian characters go through, and the way that each one experiences it differently too, and it's a different reaction to the changes that Mars goes through. It's super awesome. They call the missiles torpedoes, yeah. That's true. Bobby is an amazing character. It's a great soldier story. Yeah, I really like her. I wasn't expecting her arc to go the way that it did. It was such a pleasant departure from some tropes. All right, I think pirates are done attacking the Henry. Been sitting here. Ain't nobody coming. Ain't nobody coming to attack the Henry. There's just been... Who are you? cops. It's been many months since I watched it. What was the oh god, what's his name? The bodyguard guy. Sociopath. Lovable puppy dog sociopath murderer Amos. Yes, Amos. God. I think Amos might be my favorite because he's such a good actor. I'm so captivated by watching him on screen. The way that he expresses like this quiet menace. He's so like, I don't know, he's a great actor. The same way that in The Boys, my favorite person to watch on screen is Homelander. Like, because the actor Anthony Starr does such a frighteningly good job of projecting that. Say again? I'm sorry, what happened? Oh, yuck, that's a bad way to start a day. Old Seinfelds. Somehow Seinfeld is evergreen, despite like so many of the jokes literally not being possible to understand for somebody born in an age where there's cell phones and modern technology. No, that's what I'm saying. It's evergreen despite the fact that yeah. Yeah, the silly situations. Let's find another Super Cruise silliness story here. Porn stars killing each other with DMT rituals is pretty dope though. I like this guy's spin. Police arrest man who claimed he was making healthy meth. Brought to us by the Colorado, what is KOAA? Colorado local station. Colorado man facing drug charges after police say he told them he was attempting to create a healthy meth substance with acai berries inside a meth lab in his garage. Although a search of the garage did not turn up any methamphetamine. He's still facing drug charges? Wait a minute. Craig William Rogers, 49, was arrested on suspicion of controlled substance possession, possession of drug paraphernalia, and unlawful distribution, manufacturing, and dispensing of a controlled substance. He was released Wednesday on a $15,000 bond. Longmont police officers said they received a tip, including pictures of the meth lab on Tuesday. Rogers was seen leaving the home in a pickup truck on Tuesday afternoon and was stopped. He acknowledged that he had meth inside a pipe in the center console of the truck. Rogers also told officers he was making a, quote, healthy meth substance at his home because there were acai berries in it, according to an affidavit. Booking documents do not indicate if Rogers has an attorney who can speak on his behalf. I'm going to guess that no. Investigators found, quote, a berry-like substance inside the lab, Longmont Deputy Chief Jeff Satur said, adding that there's no possible way to make a healthy methamphetamine. Thanks, Deputy. Quote, no amount of meth is safe, whether it has a berry in it or not, Satur said. It's a highly addictive, life-destroying drug. Cops are such squares. Investigators said no meth was found inside the garage, but believe Rogers had the tools to make up to an ounce of meth a day. It's pretty good output. Sutter said the police will test the duplex where Rogers was living for meth contamination. Rogers is scheduled for a formal filing of charges Friday in a Boulder District Court. Okay. Chances are he's cooking meth. I say. A berry-like substance was found. I really got to give it up to this guy's ingenuity and drive. Let's add that to the stream title too. Acai meth. It is good for your teeth. put that question up to Twitch. Is it good to smoke meth if it has acai in it? I hear acai is a great antioxidant. It detoxes your body. What happens if you tox while you detox? Are you just retoxing? I do like your Rocinante. It's pretty good. Oh, your name was Green Tea. I didn't. Adam, what's up, my dude? I didn't see your name closely enough. I apologize. I'm happy to be back on the Twitch. Oh shit. Fucking up. Don't warn me. No, antioxidants don't really do anything anyways. Man. Just taking care of what I gotta take care of. Me mostly, my family, and my yard, and my house, and sorry about it, you know. Here I am. We good. Let's go kill some pirates. So, Adam, have you been online and seen our new member, Wolf? Our new guy, Wolf, is interesting because he was talking in chat, but he was his messages weren't making any sense. You know, they were like sometimes random character, like seemingly disconnected words or random words, sometimes misspelled, sometimes correctly spelled, sometimes like suddenly broken off with characters. Can't wait for season 5. Make the wife get caught up. I accept the mission. We'll see if I can motivate. She's a woman sure of her own interests and pursues them herself. I don't like to push things on her, but we'll see. Yeah, Adam, I was obviously taking a break too, but anyway, it was interesting because we couldn't understand what he was saying, and I just learned that he's an older man and he suffers from aphasia because of a series of embolisms that he had in his brain. And so he's still able to like play games and stuff, but the speech centers of his brain are like are damaged. It was interesting. It was what I thought was somebody was being like zany and wacky in chat. No, he has like aphasia in his brain. Yeah, I can't wait for season 5 also. It's going to be very good. There's much going on. Wow, you're gonna make me fly far for this? This isn't Synthwave. This is on the Synthwave playlist. But I beg to differ. I mean, it's kind of like if Rammstein made more Euro pop instead of metal. Alright, right. Thanks for stopping by, man. Good to see you. Just a second, I'll get it for you, Adam. AVM, I think. He wrote about it on this log post. So let's pull this up. Barry is my dad. He had an operation the other month. This was written in December of last year. He had an operation the other month on his AVMs in his brain. And the operation went wrong. He had a major stroke and was left with a lot of problems, and he can't speak or type. A brain arteriovenous malformation. It's a tangle of abnormal blood vessels connecting arteries and veins in the brain. The arteries are responsible for taking oxygen-rich blood from the heart to the brain. So this post is a very long one about aphasia from the AVM. And this is interesting. So aphasia is a condition caused by brain damage that affects a person's abilities to use language and communication effectively. In aphasia, damage to parts of the brain that are responsible for speaking, writing, reading, and understanding speech may cause a person to have difficulty making sense of conversations, understanding instructions, or following what people are saying, for example. There is no single brain area that is responsible for language. The language center is made up of specific areas of the brain that work in unison to allow fluency and comprehension of written and spoken language. These areas include Broca's area, which is involved in speech. Is this stream content, babe? Teenagers post now. So Broca's area, there's Wernicke's area, which is involved in understanding the spoken and written word. The sensory cortex, which helps process the sounds that we hear and images we see when listening and reading, and the auditory cortex, which helps specifically with the conversion of spoken language into meaningful information. The motor complex controls the voluntary muscles of the mouth and tongue in creating speech. So aphasia results from damage to any of these areas, but the resulting language deficit is not necessarily specific to the brain area involved. Damage to Broca's area, for example, will not necessarily lead to difficulty in stringing a sentence together, for example. Damage to a certain area has unpredictable effects that vary considerably between individuals. Damage to more than one language area in the brain often causes more severe forms of aphasia, such as global aphasia. Well, that's what's interesting, is a person with aphasia in the language centers of their brain would be otherwise unaffected. They'd be, fully able to comprehend and think and operate. But when it comes to understanding the spoken word, or maybe just the written word, like I've read about various kinds of aphasia, and it can be very granular to the degree where I can't read English, but I can write it. Or if I'm bilingual, I'll forget one language. I won't be able to speak one, or I won't be able to understand a language. So little tiny things like that can happen, little differences. And I believe it's possible he was playing Elite before his surgery, because he had an operation the other month, which was in, late 2019. He had his operation that went bad, and then he had the stroke, which caused the problems. So he can't speak or type. But I think that's because of the aphasia. It's not because of any motor function. I don't know. I'm speculating with that. He may be able to control joysticks, and he is able to type. I've seen him enter things into chat. But the things he has put into chat don't make sense. And I think it's because he might also be writing what makes sense to him, but because of his aphasia, it's not going to come through in a way that makes sense. It's kind of alarming the ways that the myriad ways that our brain can kind of like fail us. Here, I have a wife meme for us. Something a little more on the brighter side. You know, compared to partial aphasia. Real quick before I jump into combat. Find the person who doesn't pay taxes. Can't find them is because they're right here. Fact, babies are idiot leeches and don't fucking pay taxes. They don't pay their taxes. Somebody think of the taxi drivers. That is funny. Babies are useless. That's actually something that Michael Faraday said to the Queen when he was trying to demonstrate electromagnetism. He had just done one of the greatest feats of research to date. And in an act of pure science, he demonstrated the relationship between electricity and magnetism. A concept which led to electromagnetism, an entirely new field of study which produced motors, microprocessors, the entire technological revolution that came from electromagnetism. So Michael Faraday is sitting there with his simple machine that shows the principle of electromagnetism, and he shows it to the Queen to get a grant or whatever it is what you do to do technology. He went and showed it to whoever's in charge. He said, "Give me money." Shows it to the Queen, and she goes, "Well, of what use is this? Of what use is this electromagnetism?" And Faraday is reported to have said, "Your Highness, of what use is a baby?" Which I like. I like that as a retort for pure science. Of what use is a baby? I almost shot a priest. Ah, who am I kidding? You're dead to me, priest. Feeling rusty. Probably because I most certainly am. Fuck's sake. Stare at my Firefox window. Stare at my Firefox. Hey everyone, come watch me stream. When Michael Faraday proved that kids are useless by electromagnetism. Science is amazing. You can do so much with science. Prove that kids are useless. I mean, not that anybody needed the evidence, but but hey. I hate when all the guys de-instance. So cool to know that you can get DMT from toads. Jesus, 35,000 fucking light seconds. Lovely. I hate when it's like, this mission target has to be a minimum of this distance or whatever it is. Whatever. I want to learn more about Reconstruction era America. I want to learn more about the Southern strategy and how we failed to actually dismantle the Confederacy. There's a lot inside of that story. It's an important part of our history. Yeah, let's talk about it, dude. Misleading, I don't know, like, do we know anything enough to think it's misleading or not? I mean, yeah, it's dramatic. Like, we see them walking across, you see walking across the desert. It was also cinematic and rendered that I can't take anything in it. It's like... Wait, I failed? Oh, it failing at dismantling the Confederacy? That's what I want to learn more about. We failed in a number of ways. One of them was, ending slavery and defeating the treasonous cowards in the South. At the end of the Civil War, the North didn't have the resources to fully and completely rebuild the South, and many places of the South were left to their own devices. After they abandoned their nation to fight for an evil ideal and then lost, then they were left alone. And in many cases, they put things back together the way they saw fit. For decades after the fall of the Confederacy in the South, white supremacy continued to increase its strength and its stranglehold over the South. There was a resurgence of the KKK in the 40s, I think, where they infiltrated basically every level of society in the state of Oregon. They took over the police departments, the local governments, they filled the state with their people, voted their people in the office, and then they declared Oregon a white ethno-state, and declared that any black or brown people who visited their great white state would be subject to arrest, persecution, or violence. This is not long ago in American history. And the legacy of slavery and oppression of people based upon their race is not anywhere close to gone. We're not even living in the shadow. We're still dealing with the monster today. Not the ghost of the monster, not the memory of the monster. The monster still lives. There have been very sinister and well-orchestrated and well-educated efforts to obfuscate the language and the tools of mechanized and systemic racism, to the point where large portions of the population are not able to be aware of their own prejudices and their own instilled racisms. I'm not teaching a college class on the matter, but it's a big deal. Back to Space Lakes. It's cinematic, but they showed a planet with an atmosphere. You look at some screenshots they're used as backgrounds, you can see it's just a rocky body with a fancy sky. Well, they're not showing living worlds. They showed a barren world with a blue sky. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how they could lore explain us that we have atmospheric flight but can't land on a jungle world. Why did they show us a barren planet? Is that to manage our expectations? Is that what it's about? Ah. I was wondering that as well. Yeah, why just the rocky world? Well, it's still a ways away. I think on one hand they are trying to manage expectations. They can't have people thinking they're going to be crawling through, you know, the forest moon of Endor. But also nothing in there to indicate any kind of base building. They never said they were wandering on atmospheric land. Out of my face. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We're gonna hopefully get more information. In the actual like email or forum post or whatever it was they made where they actually talked about some of the features, they used some really soft language that left a lot of room for interpretation about what they actually were talking about. What were the social hubs that they were referring to? What does that mean? They're like, no, social hubs spread all around the galaxy. Is that player built housing? Is that some kind of new station that's only on landable bodies or something? Like, what are we actually talking about here? I don't know what it's supposed to be. Again, I've said this constantly. The thing that Elite Dangerous could do that so many MMOs have failed to do, and Elite Dangerous could do better than any other one, is player housing. There's no real estate hurdle. We have countless trillions of square miles of land that we could build on, you know? There's no limit to what we can do as far as the amount of space available to us on all of the worlds in all of the systems. And so it's troubling they haven't made any kind of like clear statement that that's a direction they want to go. Another menu in the starports, huh? Say again, what? When did, what? Oh, I don't know. What's the nastiest thing in Creep Show? Just some murder, right? No, like there's a birthday cake. There's an evil birthday cake grandma. There's a guy gets buried on the beach. Bad Father's Day. She can watch Creep Show. Yeah, that's fine. What do I think it's gonna be? The whole update? I mean, that's hard to say, man. Such a big question, because I mean, they're claiming this is gonna contain more. It's gonna be a lot. And it better be for what they're gonna charge for it. No, I mean, it's not a full $60. We'll get some new ships, hopefully the Panther Clipper. Maybe a couple new surface vehicles, because this is going to be part of the deal, is like all this new surface activities that they're going to be hawking at us. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping what I'd like it to be is exactly as I said, player-made housing. Fucking missed him from point blank. Yeah, I want player housing. I want Ishtar City in a crater somewhere. We're gonna have all of our little depots set up or whatever it is that we have. I've had my hopes up for bases and base building for some time now. I mean, that's the kind of thing that so many games. What was the last game that actually had like real, not instanced, but real player housing? What was it, EverQuest? And that got crazy and out of hand because it was just like one map. But we've got trillions of maps. And if you run out, you can just go find more, like, and never run out. So, the fact that they can do it in a way that's better than anyone else has, and the fact that FDev has shown us, I mean, all of their other games are management and building games. So clearly, that's something that their studio knows how to do. Games where you do modular building and output and all that kind of management. Doesn't No Man's Sky have something like this? A base building? Well, yeah. No Man's Sky does that. You're right. As far as having procedural, like endless worlds that you can explore and build on, yes. You are right. I wish I had an optical zoom in my canopy. Something I believe every spaceship should have. Should be able to zoom in. You know? That should be a feature in some kind of like observation ship. Any kind of optical zoom. It's pretty useless though if the rendering distance is only at like 10 kilometers or whatever it is, you know? I don't know what it is. How long is this mission? It's a few days, I think. A day. I guess another 35. Oh, only 29,000 light seconds this time. Bless. I've never played, or I have not played No Man's Sky since, you know, they had their huge updates whenever time ago that was. Here there's a lot going on in there, though. Still can't wrap my head around it. How did Hello Games, an indie game developer, manage more than FDev? The biggest studio in Britain. I don't know. Devotion. The kind of fervor of a new organization. Hello had one title before No Man's Sky, right? They did one game. This is interesting. Not surprising. Wait, where'd it go? Just saw the headline I wanted to read. New psychology paper finds extreme protest actions reduce popular support for social movements. I want to give my thoughts right off the top. Yeah, new research indicates that extreme protest tactics tend to undermine a movement's popular support in the United States by alienating both neutral observers and supporters. That's not surprising. However, that's not one of the tactical advantages of extreme actions and protests. When people are looting and rioting, they're not thinking that they're not hoping to reach the hearts and minds of people sitting at home. Yeah, go figure. It's not a surprising result. And it's also not something that's relevant. As just a form of expression, as a practice, looting is an act of rage. It's a symbolic act of rage, and one that is seen through all history. It's not, nothing surprising about people taking advantage of looting, especially if they're systemically oppressed. But then there is the tactical advantage of looting, which is not one that people don't send out looters to be like, all right, go loot so we can have this tactical advantage. No, but it is one of the side effects. So when people who are working on leading resistance movements to any form of oppression, when looting happens, it inflicts damage upon the public order. It inflicts damage upon the municipalities, who then turn and put pressure onto the enforcers of the police in our case. They put pressure on the police to make changes that will appease the rioters. So while, yes, according to new psychology research, yeah, it may alienate neutral observers. Well, they're neutral, of course. People are uncomfortable with disorder. Despite how well-meaning they are, and despite how anti-fascist or against racism or for equality a person may be, it's totally natural for them to be made deeply uncomfortable at the sight of public unrest. That's the point. As uncomfortable as, the Karens sitting in suburbia are when they read the fake news report that Antifa is coming to white neighborhoods, as uncomfortable as they are, the rioting makes city managers uncomfortable. It makes police commissioners uncomfortable. It makes police deputies uncomfortable because it's a symbolic demonstration. Looting is also used as a cudgel against the resistance movements. We have very clear evidence of, in some cases, agent provocateurs turning out, starting up rioting, trying to get the looters begun, breaking windows, being the first to throw the Molotovs, because it behooves them for the movements to be perceived as barbaric and uncouth. Additionally, the other psychological benefit, I don't want to use the word benefit, but one of the psychological aspects of looting as a practice in a movement. And I think that this is something that's important to think about. In the United States and in many other countries, the state and the authorities, they hold a monopoly on violence. Not just a practical one, but a moral one. They're the only ones who are morally allowed to apply force and violence, or the threat of violence, which is a form of violence, to get what they want. So when people are calling to question that monopoly, or trying to put some kind of brakes or governors on the management of the monopoly. Let me see, Adam. It's a good point. I thought that looters just took advantage of the chaos. Most of them do. No, like, I don't. And I want to put a finer point on what I said. 99.9% of the looters aren't going out there having a single thought about the tactical advantages of what they're doing. You know, the tactical results of what they're doing in the name of the movement. They're thinking, fuck, I've been unemployed for 40 days, and I know the cops are busy, and somebody just threw a brick through the window of that shoe store. I could use some new shoes. Why shouldn't I take it? Because another side of that coin is, in many cases, companies like Targets and Walmarts, they are the real looters. They're the companies that are existing on a state of welfare, receiving grants not just from the federal government in the form of tax breaks and tax incentives, but also from local municipalities by convincing cities to pay their bills for them. I want to build a Walmart in your town, but only if you pay for it. Just think of the jobs. We'll pay you back. You know, so when they go out and they loot the Target, it's not accidental and it's not inconsequential. But I think there's the psychological side of it that's important to mention is the act of looting, the act of doing any kind of revolutionary violence is one where you are calling into question the state's monopoly on power and the state's monopoly on violence. Because these communities are simultaneously under-policed and over-policed by people who don't live there and don't care about the people that they're policing. And in fact, they view the citizens in the neighborhoods that they police as enemy combatants who could at any second turn into a threat on their life. That's the world that many of our local police departments live in. Doesn't Walmart destroy the jobs of local shopkeepers, though? It does. Walmarts do destroy local businesses. In any small town that they've moved into, they have caused destruction in local economies. That cannot be argued. Why did my railgun malfunction? Yes, Walmarts destroy these neighborhoods, but they also are important to them. So what is sad about like that Minnesota neighborhood where they burned their Target down? I don't think Target's coming back. I don't think Target's gonna rebuild in that neighborhood anytime soon. I think they should, because that neighborhood had not had something like that, a place where you could go to get everything. And the people in that neighborhood did depend on it. Now, that target was also, in the eyes of the community, guilty of lending their wealth to the oppression and over-policing of the community. That target was helping fund the Minnesota Police Department in a number of cutting-edge programs to police the people in that neighborhood. So they did view that target as complicit and in contributing to the factors that led to that lead to police brutality and over-policing. But no, again, they didn't destroy the Walmart or the Target thinking this is destroying the local business, because a number of local businesses were damaged and destroyed as well in a number of cities across the country. I mean, that is happening. What concerns me is that all the dominoes are set. We are in a prime position for a malicious actor to take some kind of action. Let's just say if I were Russia, I'd be really happy right now. And I'd be pumping out a lot of propaganda. You pay taxes, die, you government-obeying scum. I'm a proud taxpayer. I just want to know that it's not for nothing, and right now I sure do feel like it's all for nothing. 2 weeks ago, somehow we couldn't afford to dress our doctors up like real doctors. We didn't have the money. We didn't have the masks. We didn't have the protective equipment. We didn't have anything that we needed to make our doctors actually look and be able to perform their jobs like doctors. But now, tanks, body armor, overtime hours, medical care, anything that we need to put down the protests. They find the money. They find the resources. And it just makes people angrier to see that when they're out there asking for equality. And then just to have it rubbed in their faces, in many cases, smirking cops. Let me do this. If you want to see up-to-date information, Woke, the Twitch streamer who has a great aggregate of all of the running protest streams. What I encourage you to do is to watch some of these citizen reporters who are on the ground during the daytime in the US. You want to go to these streams in Washington, D.C., in Sacramento, in San Diego, in Los Angeles, all across the country, and you want to listen to the people speaking, because what they're doing is they're holding open mics. In a lot of cities, I've seen this happen. They're holding open mics, and people go up there, they got 2 to 10 minutes to talk on the mic, however long they need, and they get up there and they're telling their stories. And these are the things that CNN and whatever your syndicated news networks, they don't have the time to do the news. They don't have the time to sit there and spend 15 minutes on a 32-year-old chef who witnessed a police brutality yesterday and is telling his story about it. That's not going to get any news, any eyeballs on the TV. You can find all this online, and you can actually hear the stories of the people who are out there struggling and trying to make this happen. And I encourage you to do that, because otherwise you're just going to find supercut reels of people throwing bottles and police bashing heads, and you're not going to find any real, true stories full of context or emotion or perspective. Because the other thing is, the media and your mainstream media, your talking heads on TV. I hate the pithy phrase mainstream media talking head, but it applies. Most of these people do not know the language of the oppressed. They can't speak it, they can't hear it. So when these protesters are out here speaking the language of the oppressed, the people who are tasked with the job of spreading the message to the rest of the world or the country, the media, they don't speak that language. They can't see what is being said. However, if things continue as they are, and the media continues to be assaulted in the streets the same way that peaceful protesters are being, when in the past media typically gets a pass on police brutality. Go look at old riot footage and you'll see police beating the shit out of a black man, and 5 feet away you've got all your news cameras standing right there, and the police know you're alright, you stay there and we stay here. But that's not happening again now. In a lot of cities, the police are turning their cameras and are turning their guns on the media. And so soon maybe they'll be speaking the language of the oppressed as well. I don't know. We'll see. What time is it? It's 11:13. Got halfway through it. I'll start a little earlier tomorrow night so I can actually finish that mission. We'll get it wrapped up. Let's head back to Stevenson. It's just been such a crazy couple weeks, man. Been a crazy couple weeks. What about Corona? You remember coronavirus? I remember. We're not fucking around with coronavirus anymore, I guess. It's just not a thing. Has Trump sent the military against protesters yet? Not exactly. In Washington, D.C., he used military police. He had MPs strengthen the line of the Secret Service and the Washington, D.C. police. That's when he tear-gassed the protesters so he could go hold a Bible upside down in front of a boarded-up church that he's never set foot inside to pray before. And he didn't come to pray or offer words of condolence. He just went there for a picture. He looks... I won't do that, but... So yes and no. Yes and no. Today, this evening, General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, patron saint of fucking shit up and reading books, the warrior monk, General Mattis, unequivocally and in no uncertain terms condemned and denounced President Trump. He called him a threat to the Constitution. He denounced his behavior, his policy, his direction, his conduct, everything about him. Where General Mattis goes, many follow. Mattis, remember, resigns. So I think that should Trump try to send the military against protesters, he'd first find Congress kicking down his doors. Posse comitatus. The military can never be used for police action on American soil. That is unconstitutional. And in fact, it's why I think Jefferson was the one that was against a standing army. He didn't want the United States to have a standing army because he didn't want it to be tempted. Just having this army standing around, of course someone will use it to oppress the people. We can't have it. I don't think that would fly in 2020. Gotta have an army. But that was his perspective. But that's why we have posse comitatus, I think is what it is the clause is called. And that's basically what they gave Jefferson is, well, we gotta have an army, foreign enemies and whatnot. But, okay, the army can never be used on American soil for police action. How's that? Okay, we'll take that. So that was the compromise. This year reminds me of the 60s. We were going to space. The Hong Kong flu was raging. People were rioting. A protest going into the Vietnam War. Martin Luther King was assassinated. Yes, very much like the 60s, except the 60s were worse. It's still a better time to be alive. In the 60s, you had the Weather Underground bombing government buildings. They were making sure they were empty, right? They didn't kill anyone. The Weather Underground never killed anyone, but they loved destroying government property. And now we have people chucking windows chucking bricks through the windows of a Rolex store on Fifth Avenue in New York, and people are clutching their pearls on the evening news. Oh, someone think of the property. Someone think of the property. No. Rewind the clock even farther, Adam. Go back to the 1940s, 1950s. Find Adam Baldwin at Cambridge talking about how long must we wait. Go back further. Read W.E.B. Du Bois, The Souls of Black People. I mean, this struggle has been going on for centuries. It's been inflicted generationally in an unbroken chain of oppression. And it's been very carefully crafted and modified over the generations and over the years. Most recent example is the Southern Strategy. And I won't take the time to explain what the Southern Strategy is. You can look it up. There's probably a whole Wikipedia article about it. It's a long series of political moves made to repackage traditional American racism into terms that are more mass marketable and palatable for a broader range of demographics. Man, I worry about the leaders in the movement because they always get assassinated. Martin Luther King, man, Fred Hampton Jr. Fred Hampton Jr. By the age of 21, he had risen to ranks in the Black Panther. He was leading breakfast programs. Fred Hampton Jr. had a gift. He could go and join communities together that had traditionally not worked. That had not worked together. He was forging bonds between the Black Panthers and the Latin Kings to end gang violence, to bring peace and prosperity to the streets. The CIA, the FBI, and the Chicago Police Department, many other police departments worked very hard to convince the American public that the Black Panthers were vicious gangs. They were never that. Fred Hampton Jr. was 22 years old when his bodyguard, an FBI plant, drugged him while he slept. The Chicago Police Department and the FBI kicked in the door, and they began shooting. I believe they fired 99 shots in a matter of a few minutes. They shot Fred Hampton to death countless times, riddled his body with bullets while he laid on the mattress, drugged and unable to fight and defend himself. One man, as he was dying, reflectively pulled the trigger on a gun, and one shot was fired. Didn't harm anyone. But of course, it was reported that the Black Panthers opened fire on the Chicago Police Department when they politely knocked on the door. Even though Fred Hampton, a straight-edge teetotaler, his body was filled with barbiturates. They murdered him in cold blood because he was an effective leader. Because he reached people and he moved them and he brought them together. And he showed them the direction that they could go to effect real change in the world. And they murdered him. Look up Fred Hampton Jr. I think it's Jr. Let me double check. Was it Junior? No, just Fred Hampton. Yeah, read about him. 1948. They murdered him in 1969, age 21. 21 years old. He's just a kid. But from the age of 15 or younger, he was working for his people, organizing, moving. I'm going to leave you with one more thing to look at when you want to talk about compromised and oppressed leaders. Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier, right now, is sitting in a maximum security prison for a crime that he most certainly, and this is not a fringe opinion, it's a matter of official record, a crime that he did not commit. He's in jail for a murder that he had nothing to do with. It was framed for by the FBI because he was an effective and experienced indigenous leader, organizing, rallying, and uniting indigenous peoples and tribes that had never worked before together in order to stand against American imperialism and tyranny. And today he's still in prison. Nobody would pardon him. Not even Barack Obama pardoned this dude. Obama is still held up as some kind of progressive hero, but he fell short in a lot of tragic ways. And one of them is in his complete silence on Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier is innocent and should be free, but he never will be, because white supremacy still reigns supreme. I know that was a bit redundant, but man, we're serious about this shit now. Like, I'm serious about it. Leonard Peltier is a good story. Basically, even with Obama, yeah, I mean, white supremacy didn't go anywhere when Obama was president. It tucked its head in a little bit because there was a powerful black man around, but it didn't go anywhere. I mean, there was still a strong Republican presence and conservative and racist presence in Washington and the South, and no, it was a momentary reprieve from utter rot. But no, Obama had his own issues. He had problems too. You know, looking back in retrospect, I was young. I wasn't paying very close attention. But I don't know why Obama wouldn't pardon Leonard Peltier. Politics is muddy and messy, and you gotta people do things that they don't agree with because they feel like they have to, I think. You know, I did one thing for these people, so I have to do another for these people. And so now both people think that you're a traitor to the cause. And all you're trying to do is get everyone to vote for you. When your actions, which we know are the most important thing, your actions can only be seen as duplicitousness and cowardice. That's the way that most people view the modern politician. Duplicitous and craven. So yeah. Sorry, I get a little intense sometimes. I didn't mean to. Yeah, Leonard Peltier is convicted of murdering 2 FBI agents. There was one witness to the crime. This lady that the FBI dragged and forced this eyewitness report out of, which she later, on record in court, said that the FBI coerced her into saying it. You know, it was on testimony that was retracted. He still is in prison. Next scheduled parole hearing 2024. So sad. You'll be 79 years old. He got 2 life sentences. When was he imprisoned? Imagine being innocent. Imagine being an innocent activist and being in jail from 1975 to now, knowing that you won't even get a parole hearing until 2024. Yes, it is a nice discussion, and it's important that we have these discussions. Like, we live in uncomfortable times, and if I just come on here every night and just play video games and act like a clown, then I'm not going to be able to feel good about myself. I'm not going to be able to feel good that I'm spending my time effectively and wisely. And so that's what I want to do. I'm not going to sit here all night and just be a political junkie. I still love video games. I want to have fun, and I want to play still. But I also got to talk about the things that upset me, and I want to talk about the things that are upsetting other people and are impacting other people. And right now it's police brutality. It's the 1033 program in the United States that's enabling police departments to buy secondhand military equipment. It's the utter lack of training and regard for the safety and health and well-being of the community members that these police departments patrol in. I could go on and on and on. And on and on and on and on and on. And I think for me, one of the reasons why I'm not out in the streets, in the protests, is because I'm a father. I got my little girl here at home. I got my wife here at home. If something were to happen to me, I hear tell that these fascists are carrying guns. So, one's got to be careful. Anyway, that's a good note for me to wrap it up. I want to thank you for coming back out again, Adam. Again, sorry I was such a bum for a while. Obviously, there's a lot on my mind. And I've just been glued to these protest streams. And then also turning around and watching, the way that the media is portraying it. I'm not black, so you say I'm good. Yeah. That's why I'm angry. That's one of the things that as a white person who's sympathetic to the struggle, I can utilize that safety. But no, accidents happen. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to keep myself safe and comfortable. I know I wouldn't even go to jail for a night. Like, if I'm out breaking curfew, I might violate curfew one of these nights soon. Just go hold a sign out or something. Just peaceful, standing there by myself, violate the curfew, hold the sign. Yeah, I'm not black, but I'm from southern Italy, so like a white supremacist would say I'm not white. I'm not and I went to high school in a black neighborhood, and I went to actually my high school wasn't mostly black. It's actually quarter black, quarter white, quarter Latino, and a quarter Asian of various mix. Mostly Hmong, but also some Vietnamese. Not a lot of Chinese people went to my high school, but we had a great mix. But what was my point? Was that I learned that technically I'm white, and I'm light skinned and white presenting enough that I live the life of a white person when it comes to racial existence in America. So there's no question in my mind about that as far as the big P word, privilege, is concerned. But yeah, but they don't really care anyways. They're fucking people up left and right now. Nobody's talked about hydroxychloroquine in a while, probably because it doesn't work. Oh, I trolled some lady on Twitter the other day. Let me find this. This is actually pretty funny. And then I'll go to bed. I find this good. How do I do Twitter? My profile, tweets and replies. I gotta find this. So I forget where I was, but I was digging through some thread about some such or other. And I found this lady that was shilling a 5G converter. It's on my other Twitter account. I forgot the one that I can't put here. Yeah, it's been proven it doesn't work totally. No doubt. So this lady was hawking basically it's an Ethernet adapter. Ethernet to USB adapter. Pretty basic shit, right? Like, just an Ethernet adapter you plug it into USB. So it's for when your laptop doesn't have an Ethernet port. Or for when you're a crazy EM sensitive loony and you don't want to be exposed to harmful radiation. So she posted this post. Sorry, and I can't share the whole thread. Oh, she deleted them. Okay, so basically what she said was like, buy this thing to reduce your EM exposure to 0. Because then you don't, and then she said some crazy stuff about it'll reduce the demand for cell towers and they won't build 5G towers anymore if we all just plug our laptops in everywhere. So it's like, this is ridiculous and stupid on so many different levels. I didn't know what way to attack this. So I just said, this is false. The only way to escape EM exposure is to reside in a fully charged and active Faraday cage. The New World Order has succeeded in blanketing the flat Earth with harmful radiation. You must stay inside. Paint your walls in lead if you can't make a Faraday cage. So, I mean, the satire in that, I thought it was pretty clear that my tongue is in my cheek and I'm taking the piss. But then she replies very sincerely, I wasn't saying using an Ethernet cables would negate all RF exposure, but cutting it back where you can helps. And then I said, you said it reduces exposure to 0. Your words. We're all bathed in the same harmless EM radiation all the time. You can turn on airplane mode and disable your device's cell connection, but the towers and Wi-Fi will always be there, strong as ever. Electrosmog, they call it. EM sensitives really are well, not a new level of silliness. It's one thing they found was that llamas have antibodies for COVID, so they use it to treat people. Llamas are going to save us? I find that news uplifting. I do. It certainly is uplifting. Llamas. The key is in llama blood. Llama blood. All right, guys, let's go to bed. This was a short stream tonight, but I'm stretching out my legs. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll play more. We'll play longer. We'll play deeper and harder. Deeper, deeper, deeper. Yes? Yes, I believe we will. Good night. Thank you for coming by again. I'm sorry again for my absence. I don't want to be a bum anymore. I'll be back. We'll get this show back on the road, Adam. Thanks, dude. See you later.